contaminating the source. I thought that was pretty good. Is Levi coming tonight?
Is Levi coming tonight?
I didn't talk with him.
No.
Dave said he was gonna call.
He was.
Yeah, I don't know if he did. I talked to him this week.
Yeah, and to be neutral, I had Western Slope Conservation Center talk to then talk to Levi. Either I left it up to his discretion, just for that we should be invited to.
All right, well, it is 6:30 and time to get this meeting started. Let's all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have roll call, please? Here.
Trustee Marshall,
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Here. Trustee Letter,
Present.
Trustee Valentine. Trustee Stelter.
All right, so we can continue. Next on the agenda is correspondence received. Would the board like to act on anything that was received? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion? Second,
Second.
discussion?
I don't want to necessarily change the agenda, but I'd like to suspend our ruling on public comment when it comes to the administrator, the interim administrator's report. And the reason I say that is the public hasn't necessarily been commenting on the reports by the police chief and the administrator. And I think tonight, with what we know about the financial situation, I think the public might have some questions they'd at least like to get in the record during that discussion. So I'd just like to suspend our current approach to public comments for that part of the agenda.
Okay, discussion from the board.
I suppose that's a motion.
Yes. Okay, I'll make that a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion from the board.
I've noticed that our plan for receiving public comment hasn't been followed very closely in general. So I guess Paige, is your thinking that it'll just be public comment at the end again, or like what
It's supposed to be at
approach?
the beginning.
I know, yeah, but that's what she wants to suspend that.
Well, I think the public hasn't necessarily been commenting on the staff reports.
We have not.
And I would like to accept public comment for the staff reports. And that's the only part I'm proposing to suspend. Our approach is to allow public comment on that motion.
Fine.
Should I redo my motion?
No, I didn't understand it, but I thought you wanted to permit more public comment rather than restrict it further.
No, I want more during staff reports.
Okay.
And then for this meeting, I don't want to address the other,
Okay.
just staff reports.
We can. Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
Yes,
Yes.
I wanted to at least have a specific time frame because I'm going to lose internet connection at 9 o'clock tonight. And I can only stay on remote until then. So I don't want to have public comment on every statement, but if we could group it, I would be fine with that. I just don't want it to go on and on because we have a lot of other agenda items tonight. Thanks.
To me, I think people should be given 3 minutes for, I'm most concerned about people's thoughts on the interim administrative report primarily, but that's the one that I guess I would say suspend and allow people to ask questions that we can at least, I know we can't answer them, but at least get them in the record.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right. All in favor, so we have a motion to suspend our rules on public comment on the interim town administrator report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Dave, did you have?
I voted aye.
Okay, all right, that motion passes. All right, next, okay, then we have, we didn't approve the agenda, did we?
No.
All right, So we have a motion on the table to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, announcements. Does anyone have any
I have an
announcements?
announcement. Did you want to go first with yours? Go ahead. I just wanted to welcome everybody that's here in person and on Zoom. Thanks for showing up and welcome to our town meeting. Okay, so I have about 5 minutes worth I have to talk. In 2012, when I last left my second term in office, the Peonia water system was totally functional. It was aging. Definitely needed capital improvement, but all systems were online. By 2017, 5 years later, in the middle of a drought, the town had taken half of our water offline and basically just neglected it. And I came before the town board in 2017 and admonished them for shutting down half our water system in the middle of a drought. And they just blew me off. In 2019, it could have been predicted we ran out of water. We ran out of water because we only had half our water system running. I figured that that would shock the town board and they'd do something about it, but nothing happened. And then in 2020, when the moratorium went into effect, I figured, well, that's going to stop all development in Paonia. And that ought to trigger some reaction by the board. Nothing happened. So in 2022, because water is something humans really need, I decided I didn't want to run for office because I didn't want 4 years. So I went ahead and applied as an appointed position, which was a 2-year window, intending to just do one thing, which was to fix the water. All the rest of the stuff that this town board does, I thought was secondary. Humans can live without bureaucracy, but they can't live without water. So I came in expecting to have to revamp the Public Works Department and possibly parts of the other town staff. And I was wrong. When I looked at them, I found that they were highly capable. There's new people on board like Jeremiah and people like Corey, Jordan, and just the regular workers, Dennis and Roger, who were doing a really great job. I was impressed. And I didn't have to do much. They were doing the water system by themselves. And the town board really wasn't doing much to help them. They were just on a run and doing it well. So I just kind of sat in the saddle and rode the herd. I didn't have to do a whole lot of work, but I watched things. And I think now the town water system's on its way to being fixed, and also the capital improvement. It's been the staff who precedes Leslie in it have done a great job, and Leslie's been good for touching us up with money, which is what we really need. So tonight is my last night, and I've done what needed to be done, and when I look at this agenda, most of this is really of little consequence to me and to most of the citizens of the town. But I'd like to talk about the staff a bit because I've worked with a lot of staff over 9 years on the town of Paonia, and this is the best batch I've worked with. The Public Works is the best since John Norris ran this town. He did a really good job. The police department was totally dysfunctional for 32 years I've been here. At one point, all the police officers threw up their hands and left except for one. And of course, that one became the chief of police. And then the administration, once Sam took over, and it's just powerhouse. Things are getting done. Ruben, Amanda, good job. My only concern with Sam is I look at the timestamps on what she's doing and I'm worried about burnout. This is a marathon, Sam. It's not a sprint. So I want to thank you all, but this will be my last night and I'm going fishing.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Good luck, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, I got some big fish already just 2 weeks ago, so.
Well, we regret the truly, yes. You've been very helpful, and I'm sorry to see you go. All right. If there's no further comments or announcements, I'm going to move on to public comments. You have 3 minutes. You can make comments on anything that is not on the agenda for tonight. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none.
I raised my hand.
Okay, yes. Suzanne.
Suzanne Watson.
So please state your name and your address and write
My
your
name
name
is
on
Suzanne
and
Watson.
paper.
My name's, and I live in Peoria.
Okay.
There's no paper here. So I raised my hand at the last meeting when you were talking about the cleanup day, and I was not recognized. So I wanted to tell you, if you go to your ordinance, section 13-6-30, charges for trash. You have an ordinance that says oversized items that can be easily handled by one man shall be charged $5. Oversized items that can easily be handled by two men will be charged $7. And oversized items that can be handled by three men will be charged $10. And then also this is repeated in 13-6-70, oversized garbage, tree trimmings and tires. Well, you cannot trump or override an ordinance with a resolution. These are the prices, and I think that people have been overcharged for the last few years because people don't look at the laws that you're supposed to be following. And it's a frustration for me. And then I'd like you to, I seem to remember last year with Cindy's spreadsheet for the cleanup day, the numbers kept changing around on the amount that was in the budget for that. And I seem to remember her saying that the county chipped in like up to $3,000 for the cleanup day. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I like you to look into that because it might be supported and somewhat subsidized by the county. And I thought that was historically what had happened, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the consent agenda. It seems like we have nothing on the consent agenda.
It's empty.
It's empty. All right, so then let's move on to, yeah, Sam.
It must not have gone through there, but you're gonna have disbursements eventually. So,
We have to okay it.
yeah, you guys.
Are you cutting checks? Are you able to?
We're in the process, so, but disbursements, I thought it was. Yeah, it's on there. Right under consent.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the disbursements.
Yeah, we can do it. And
We can do it, and we've done this before.
Right, we've done this before, and then we will look at them, and then if we
And
have.
then I trust you and Paige to go
Right.
through them and make sure they're proper.
Yes, Mr. Markle.
Second.
All right.
Also, this is extenuating circumstances. But all we have right now is a word that says disbursements under consent agenda.
Exactly.
So I kind of feel like we're placing a lot of public trust in the people who are actually doing this work right now. Do a good job. It's also been more than one. In other words, we've got a window, what's it, 3 times now? Yeah, this is the third time, the last time. So when I said. So, yeah, it's faith-based, right.
And I was just wondering if we have a time this week that you feel like you'll be ready for us to come in and sign, just so people can
I
know.
need to call Cassell tomorrow. Invoices are in, and so I just need them to walk me through the check process. And then for the rest of that too, once we get them all done, I'm more than happy to disperse that out however we can, so everybody can look at what's happening, so they know what you guys are seeing as well. So it was a learning curve. It's been a long week.
Yeah, and I just want to speak up for the staff. It's been a very stressful few weeks, and we've had a lot of unexpected things come up that we've had to deal with, so please bear with us.
And for me, it's just, I'm gonna leave my week open so that I can come in as soon as you're ready. Okay, I just wanted the public to know it'll probably happen this week and I'll make myself available.
I
Yes.
just have to wait on our software company to call me and walk me through, so it should be tomorrow.
Definitely, put them in the packet for next week, so that everyone can see what was dispersed.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept disbursements. All in favor?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
All right. That motion passes. Now we can move on to staff reports. I will take questions for the interim town administrator from the public. Her report is in the packet. Are there any questions for her? Yes.
Attorney Patterson, Rio Grande. I just want to know if we can have that full report from the investigators for the public. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
The full the complete investigation.
There's no complete investigation.
They've had nothing in writing.
Just, this is gonna be a long process. This is exactly what we found so far. But we have to go deeper than this.
Okay, so it's just really the brief.
Yeah,
explanation.
and it's actually the only report they gave us is on a spreadsheet in the amended. It's
So
just a couple of, yeah. It's just basically this without all the explanation.
Without all the explanation. Okay.
So they're just,
Yeah.
accountants speak a different language. They're just gonna say one sentence.
Yeah.
And I try and write my report so everybody could understand what's going on.
So there's no details given or
There-
names named or where?
No, we can't, if there were names named, we can't, we have to redact those.
Okay.
But there aren't names named. Their exact spreadsheet as they wrote it is in the amended packet. We just received it Friday.
Or we just received it.
Yeah, just Friday afternoon.
Any other questions from the town administrator? Yes. Ms. Watson.
Okay, really quickly at the end of the report here, maybe when you get to that, can you better explain what you mean by switch to radio read? My meter is on radio read, and I thought when they drive by and read my meter, it goes into a device. So when you're talking about hand entry, I was a little confused by that. And then also, I mean, are we really hand entering every single radio read meter in this town? I'm confused. And then also, I understand your concern with all those accounts. I mean, our budgets are horrendously long. And, but it's the only way I've ever seen them done. And I really respect the fact that we could have a much more efficient financial system. I think we need that here, so we don't scare off too many town administrator candidates. I don't think it's the public that's scary. I think it's what's been happening in there. But I was a little concerned with certain funds. You said the water fund is an enterprise, and the sewer fund is an enterprise, and the garbage fund is an enterprise. But I don't see our garbage fund as being an enterprise. We don't have a single ordinance that sets up the garbage as an enterprise. We have an enterprise for the water sewer activity that's under Title 37, 45.1, and it's our ordinance 13-4-10, and there is no official trash enterprise. So it's never been described. I think it's loosely batted around and it's conveniently used and it's combined with sanitation, but water sewer enterprise has to do with the water coming in and the water going out, and the garbage, the solid waste has nothing to do with that, as far as I know. And then also I was concerned that like the marijuana revenue fund, the voters voted for certain spending things for those dollars. It's not just for potholes, it was for street trees. It was for landscaping, it was for the town right of ways, things that don't generally get covered. And I want to make sure we don't lose track of that. And it all goes into a public works slush fund. I think they need to be earmarked for the items that that were on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the town administrator? All right, seeing none, Leslie, the floor is yours.
Well, I'll start out with the trash fund. I called it trash fund. It is the sanitation fund. And if you look in chapter 2, article 4, it's listed. So that's the enterprise fund. And the enterprise, there's certain rules under Tabor and also accounting for enterprise funds. They're a little bit different. And we treat all 3 of our utilities as enterprises. They can't have tax money, they have to be funded by fees and rates. So, okay, so the first thing is, I think we got a really great response on the survey. And it was very interesting to me because I was really surprised, given my limited exposure to public comment, that people really support the town. And there were a lot of favorable comments there. I mean, of course, there were others that weren't happy, but I think there was some constructive comments that, you know, we can pay attention to. And it was really good. And it was helpful for me to see what people think are important. We did intentionally leave off, I'm going to call them things that the public isn't really concerned about, like, you know, if we use certain Cassell modules, or there was one the police department had on there that I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't something the public is going to be that interested in, and just tried to include everything that they might want to. And of course, water and sewer wins. That was no surprise. So the water and sewer improvements, when I wrote this report, I think, did we already have our sewer problem? Oh, no, we did. I mentioned it. Okay. I think I had to amend it to add it in. So all of our grants went in, including our Doris sewer line grant, and then we had a collapse of a completely different line that was not on our radar. That line is actually more expensive to repair than the Doris line. So today I did talk to DOLA. What they're recommending is that we apply for the entire amount of the repair in a loan. They have mentioned several times we may get it in a grant. I don't know what that means, and I haven't really plunged into that depth because I don't want to. They're being really helpful right now. I don't want to push anything, but today, the estimate came in. Corey's going to talk more in detail about this at about $338,000. I'm wanting to apply from 350 to 360. I'm just always worried when we've got that old of a system, we're going to get down there and find other things that we didn't know about. But we had an interesting discussion today, and we're not going to talk about it this week. I'm going to talk about it at the next meeting. I just kind of want to give you a heads up. Corey feels that his crew, and this is capacity-wise and expertise-wise, and I totally agree with Dave Weber, you have an incredible public works team. He is thinking that if we bought an excavator and a dump truck and some other things, we could repair our own lines, replace our own lines much cheaper. Now, the big project of replacing all of them, there's no way the staff can do, because that will take probably a couple of summers to do. But if we have this, we could have gotten right out there. The reason we're waiting right now is manhole covers have to be fabricated, and started digging and addressing this. And we wouldn't be paying the markup from the contractors, various contractors that we hire. So we talked a little bit about the cost, and he thinks that we could get all the things that he needs, and it would be used equipment, which is normal for a small town. That's what you buy. You buy a big town's new equipment that they decide to buy even newer equipment for. And he could do the whole thing for around $500,000. So that would save us money in the long term, because the markup on, especially when you're doing emergency excavation, which is what we're doing right now, is much higher. So he's doing some research. We're gonna talk to you about it next time. We do have the money in the sewer account, but what I'm thinking about is applying for this bridge, what I'm calling a bridge loan, from DOLA, and including that equipment if you're interested in doing that. So we can talk about that in 2 weeks. And I think at that price, it might be the right way to go. But you guys think about it. If you think of any questions, we can get them answered. So I think I'll let Corey fill you in on what we're doing with that. The town administrator search, it looks like we're getting some qualified applicants. And I did talk to somebody who's local and is an experienced city manager that may be applying. So that would be really great. So we'll see how that goes. As far as the financial management and our data, first of all, I heard this rumor going around that the town doesn't have money. The problem is not money. We have money. We just can't tell from our accounting system where it is. You know, we can't run out reports in a regular government format to be able to tell where we're at on expenditures and where are we at with the budget. And those are reports you should be getting every month. I haven't worked in any situation where people weren't getting those reports every month. And I have not been able to get that information. So we did have somebody come out and first Tammy Francis from Cedar Ridge, and the town of Cedar Ridge loaned us their finance director for free. She came out and looked and noticed that the big issues were that we had a lot of funds and we have a lot of bank accounts, and that's not usually how you do government accounting and finance. And so I have since Brett out, who CML recommended, to go through it more in depth and come up with a plan to fix everything. Their contracts are in the packet tonight. They think that they could fix Cassell. Well, they want what they'll do is ask Cassell to fix it, but they'll tell them exactly what needs to be done, because they said Cassell can fix it the fastest and it will be the cheapest. And they are very much holding our finances in mind. So we're trying to keep this low as possible. And then they're recommending that after we get Cassell fixed, then we consolidate our bank accounts into a normal bank account structure. They and then what they would do, they were very impressed with our staff, again, as Dave pointed out, and they will train them to do the bookkeeping part of it. And then they don't really think they will have much involvement just keeping things going. So, you know, all this is going to unfold over time, but the things that they found is that we have improper creation of funds. We have a ton of funds in there, and most of them that you never approved. I don't think that there was an intention of creating funds. I think that they just got created instead of the normal governmental financing thing. And that's I would say the basic reason why we have not been able to get financial reports is you'd have to hand conglomerate all that information every single time. And that takes hours and hours and hours. So I had to do that once in a budget that was actually created with the governmental accounting system, but was extremely detailed for a very small town. Their recommendation is we reorder the system according to what we call GASP, or government account standard practices. You have certain accounts, as Suzanne pointed out, that you set up by the board. But most of these funds that have been set up have not been approved by the board. What you've set up that I think we're keeping is the capital improvement fund. The Conservation Trust Fund is in its separate fund by state statute. That's went through with, I guess, the original ballot measure to set that up statewide. The general fund is supposed to hold all of your government accounting functions. So the police department, anything in public works that's not an enterprise, streets, sidewalks, all that stuff, that all goes in the general fund. You don't make separate funds for that. And then we have the 3 enterprise funds. The questions I have that I think I want to review with people who know more than I do a little bit more is your sidewalk fund is actually a fee, and the board set that up, but it's a fee. You don't usually put fees in a fund. A fee is a revenue source, and the way that you look at that, if your revenue source is being spent on the improvement, is through your accounting system. not by creating a separate fund. So that particular fee is sunsetting this year. So if you want to reinstate it, you're going to have to go back out and ask the voters. But at that point, I think we integrate it into the government funds. And then there was the streets capital improvement fund. I don't understand at this point why we have two separate capital improvement funds. So I have to look into that deeper before I give you a recommendation. It might have been set up that way by the board, but usually you have one capital improvement fund and you put your savings in there so that you spend on your long-term improvements out of that capital improvement fund. And ours are kind of scattered all over the place. So that's, and when I was going to mention, people are probably thinking, how does she know all this stuff? I do have an MBA with an emphasis in finance, and I have gone through the Government Accounting Academy with the Government Finance Officers Association. The budget was never entered into Cassell, which is why you're not getting budget to actuals. And I think that's because it's so complicated that how would you put the budget in? You can't match the budget up to anything. And so that's our goal. Get it reordered, put the budget in, you start getting monthly financial reports. I'm gonna kind of go through this a little faster because everybody has it to look at. The chart of accounts have been, and that's the actual numbers, have not been set up to best practice, and they don't coincide with what's in the budget. There's a different numbering system for the budget. You're supposed to always use that numbering system. So that's something, I don't know how easy that's going to be to clean up. I think this consultant was planning to talk to Cassell to see if we could do that quickly. And then, you know, and I already talked about this. I haven't been able to, it's my responsibility to let you know if I see anything wrong, and I have no idea what's going on. So both the board and the town administrator has to get access, and the department heads. The department heads have to monitor their own budgets, and they've not been able to do that. They have to be able to say, how much money do I have left? And now I have to switch funds between this line item. Is there enough in the overall, my overall budget to be able to do that? So that's where we're headed. We did have a problem when, and I'm not sure if it was Cassell, because we were experiencing internet issues that day when Michelle was in it. And we're not sure. She thinks that there's something on our phone server that's causing Cassell to crash. So we're just going to have them talk to Cassell and the phones talk to each other and see if there's any bugs that need to be worked out. We might want to think about, and this is not a recommendation yet because I'm not sure, going to Cassell Cloud and have Cassell host it directly. There's still the same problem when we lose internet. We're not going to be able to access it either way. It might be less expensive and less buggy if we have Cassell hosted on cloud. Let's see. They do have free training in Cassell through August. It's some sort of special, but you have to send people to be trained to Provo. It's on-site training. And I've been advised that their on-site training is much better than their online training. We've purchased Cassell modules that were never put into place. The professional management systems is planning to look at those modules. 2 of them we know we want to implement. The others we may just give back. I mean, we're paying for them and we don't know if we need them. And in addition to that, and Corey actually brought this to my attention, he said, Cassell has an app where I can go to the field and look at my budget versus actuals. So professional management systems also brought that up. And so our intention is to get the staff that app so they can look anytime they need to. We have this extraordinary number of bank accounts. We have 3 bank accounts that look like they have about 2,000 each in them, which is very weird. I don't know why we would have a bank account that has that little money. We think that perhaps it was used as an accounting measure, but we need to consolidate those. Usually a town has one big checking account and then investment accounts. That the accounts aren't separated like funds. They're just to move money in and out of the funds. One concern I had when I first got here is that we did not have a separate person in entering invoices, accepting and entering invoices and coding them from the person who was also writing the checks. And I've been working to reestablish that. And that's something that before I leave, I'm going to let you know exactly how your internal control should work. And then you should maintain them at all costs. And you know why better than, sometimes I come into towns that haven't experienced a terrible crisis and they like, why should we do that? Then, we could just have one person do that. You can't just have one person do that. And why better than anybody, I think. The audit was scheduled for April 16th. I went back and forth with the auditor. She could not change the appointment. She has announced that she's retiring and we're going to have to get another one. I canceled the audit appointment because I was advised we're not ready. I think we had been doing a lot of staff work to prepare different charts and stuff for the auditors when they should have just been able to download stuff out of Cassell. And because they can't download stuff out of Cassell. So that's that situation. Anything else? Oh, and the meter reading, I'm going to actually let Corey address that. We are switching to radio read meters. What we didn't know is that we had the handheld to read it, and that has just been located. It was stuffed somewhere that the newer staff did not know where it was. So we are setting that up. But, they just noticed that Amanda has been entering in all the reads, and that's a tremendous amount of time that we could free up for her to do other bookkeeping things. We are trying to keep the costs down. We do have the money in the general fund to fix this. And to me, it's essential to fix it. So that is my report.
Comment. I'm in favor of improving the town accounting system. I think it's a good idea, but I have problems with the way this was done because there's a legal issue here. And that is that Cindy was the treasurer. That's a statutory position. And that answers directly to the town board and not to the administrator. The state set this up for exactly this way for a reason. Now, I trust Leslie completely, but let's take her evil twin that's in some other town and look at the data that I saw when this occurred. I saw that my treasurer was gone. I saw that my other part of my finance committee had cut me out of the loop and was giving me no information. Thank you for the teamwork page. And I saw strange people in messing with the town accounting system. Now, if the evil twin had decided to do that exact same thing, it'd be very easy, especially if a board did not know its powers and duties, to go ahead and have an administrator get rid of the treasurer, put her own people in there and start deleting the accounts. My red flags went off everywhere for that. Now, I do trust you, Leslie, but it was handled wrong. The only people that can actually suspend Cindy or discipline her or fire her is the board, because it is a statutory position. And you should have come and talked to all of us. You should have pulled us into an executive session and given us a full breakdown, not just left us in the dark with one cryptic sentence that was in the email. That's what I've got to say on it.
I disagree with you.
Okay, yes.
Thanks. Dave, we have an executive session later on tonight for advice regarding specific legal questions regarding the removal of officers. And I think that probably your concerns regarding the appropriateness of action can be discussed there. Beyond that, actually, first of all, can we get the lights and fans on up here? I'm hot myself, and I imagine everybody back there is probably cooking as well. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, thank you for doing all this, Leslie. I appreciate your efforts, and improved accounting is something that I brought up a whole bunch as a citizen, and I haven't as a board member. So thanks for staying on top of it. And I would like to, as a board, figure out how we can implement accountability moving forward, because I feel like that's something that has been missing and could have obviated all of these problems to begin with. I would also like to get information on how bank accounts were opened. Is my understanding correct that actual bank accounts were opened in the town's name?
We have some questions about that and we are going to be looking at it.
Okay.
I can't really comment on that because I don't know enough yet. We've been focusing on Casella.
Okay, yeah, moving forward, like, as we go through it, I think that is probably a key component to find out how bank accounts may have been opened, or if that is the case. And finally, regarding the handheld reader, Corey brought that by my house not too long ago, probably last month. It was found before then, or?
This be found right before then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He was hoping you could help with it, I think.
Not at all. Not a chance.
So you try.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was all my comments. Thank you.
Okay. So Corey, did you want to say anything about the handheld reader?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is an older radio read handheld that we have been using, and it will read the data. We just can't log it or upload it. It's essentially locked, so we have to read it. We can read it manually. We can do leak tests with it, but we can't transfer the data off of that one into anything else and to Cassell or any of the billing stuff. So that is one of the things that's creating a lot of man hours, because even though they radio read, we still have to write, we have to match up numbers to addresses and write them all down. It takes a long time, adds in a lot of human error. The new one, we just have to get somebody out to set up the software, and it should read them and import them in directly into Cassell. So it will eliminate a lot of the human error, because the way we're doing it now, there's possibility of human error on Public Works part, writing the reads down, and then we give them to the town office and they also have to manually input them. So it would eliminate both of the manually entered data and hopefully make the reads a lot more accurate.
Thank you, Corey. All right, shall we move on to the police report? Yeah.
Okay, first things, thank you for the kind words, Dave. Thank you for the support. Thank you for your service to town.
Doing a good job.
Thank you. For the department briefing, a couple things, hit on the highlights. I attended the West Central Training Region. That's our post region set up through the state. There are still grant funds available for law enforcement training, and we'll continue to apply for those. When we send somebody to training, we can apply for reimbursement through the state. They will reimburse the town for what we spend on that training. It's very helpful to smaller departments like ours. We utilized mental health services on 5 separate calls for service last month. I know I speak about this, seems like every other month, but that service is extremely valuable to us. that group of people is doing an awesome job, and it's really helping a lot of people, and it's helping us. We're not putting our guys in positions they're not comfortable with. We're getting people some help. That being said, that usage is trending upwards. So we're using those resources. I'm glad we're using them, but I said it before, check on people you know, check on your neighbors, check on family members, make sure everybody's doing all right. And the last thing is, we put on a presentation at the senior center. With them, we went over identity theft, some scams, kind of how to recognize that, some steps you can take if you're a victim. We printed out some books for them so they could read through that. We're noticing an uptick in those that are successful. It seems like there's not as many of them, but it's the ones that are successful seem to be increasing. So I was very happy to meet with them, and we like their support, and that was a good meeting with them. We also met with the Rotary Club, just kind of give a brief overview of the departments, and I want to say thank you to them as well, and we appreciate their support too.
Okay, so you from the board for All right, seeing none, let's move on to Public Works. Cory, anything else to report?
Yeah, I apologize for not getting a report typed up. We've been,
You've been busy.
yeah, we have been trying to fix areas that we knew was problem areas. We did dig up across North Fork, between 4th and North Fork, to try to figure out why that area is always flooding. And once we got it pulled up, it was plumb full of gravel and rocks and stuff. So we got that all cleaned out, and redid the grading there by the minor statue to hopefully stop the gravel and stuff from getting in there. I don't know how well it's going to work, but we had to try something different. Been working on a lot of potholes still, and then of course our the Delta water line, and that should be put online tomorrow. We should have it tied in. That was the area that we pulled through is being shock treated right now. And of course the sewer line collapse that we had. And there is another one up on Clark that's pretty small, and we will handle that in-house. Any questions or?
Any questions from the board for Cory? Okay, seeing none. Next up is Sam. Do you have anything to say aside from the few things you have in the packet?
No, just I wanted to give you guys an update so you know where we were sitting at. I'll have hopefully so by the next meeting you guys will be hearing one way or another on that one. But obviously, since it has a 30-day deadline and everything else has been insane, it's not been at the top of my list. But I wanted you guys to know it has been received, and just so you're prepared.
All right. Onward. First time on the next part of our agenda is the International Society of Arborists Rocky Mountain Chapter event in the park. Anything else you would like to say about this, Sam?
Actually, Kelly's Missouri over there. Is this?
Oh, there's
your
your
child, so
Hi.
All right, Kelly, would you like to explain your event for us, please?
Absolutely. So I am the executive director of the International Society of Arboriculture, the Rocky Mountain chapter. And every year we host a tree climbing competition. And this year we are hoping to get your approval to host this event in your town park. We've been working with Sam. She's been great submitting all of the documents. I don't necessarily want to take up too much time to go through all of this. So if you guys have any questions, right now we're looking at 35 climbers, and about 75 volunteers. So we have about 2.5 volunteers to every climber. Safety is our top priority. In fact, I have my colleague Chad, who is the chair of the event, also on this call as well to answer any questions that you guys might have about safety or setup in the tree work specifically.
All right, thank you. Okay, comments from the public. Yes, Suzanne.
I just wanted to know, are you allowing spikes or gaffs with the climbing?
Okay.
Okay, we have an ordinance that disallows them, so I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the public? All right, seeing none. Questions from the board? Yes.
The only question I had was who is picking up all the branches and dealing with them?
We are.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else from the board? All right, can we have a motion then to approve this large park event?
Make a motion to approve the arborist event in the park.
Yes, okay, all right. Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. I'm gonna come watch.
Thank
All right,
you.
yeah.
Likewise.
All right, next is a letter of support for the River District grant. So we are putting in a grant for $25,000. This is a matching grant for our CWCB grant, which is for the hydrogeology study. And so it's just another $25,000 to add to that whole grant. And they require a letter of support from the town for that grant. And this is that letter. Question from the board? Anything from the public? All right, can we get a motion to approve putting this grant in or this letter of support in?
I move that we approve the letter of support.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, next is a staff recommendation about the Forest Service restricted burn. All right,
I don't know if I have a
Jeremiah.
recommendation per se, but per our ordinance, we need to review anything that could impact our municipal watershed. So I just wanted to give you guys sort of an update. I'm glad the Forest Service is present. We got 1, 2, 3 present for the conversation, which is great. So basically, did you guys have a chance to read it at all? Anybody? Yes. Okay, cool. So basically, it's a winter wild habitat improvement plan that utilizes prescriptive burning to mostly target shrub oak and potentially pinyon juniper, although from our conversation, it wasn't clear if you were going to move forward with pinyon juniper burning. The Forest Service wants to categorize it as a categorical exclusion. And it's in the municipal watershed. So for me, it brought up some concerns about just what we know in-house, the data that we have in terms of like where all of our critical assets are, where our natural infiltration galleries are, and how susceptible they might be to ash, or if, you know, we don't really have a response plan if it gets out of hand. And I'm not suggesting it will, because I really trust the Forest Service and their expertise in the matter. But it is something that I needed to raise. As far as I know, the town of Paonia does fit the bill of needing to supply data to the wildland fire decision support system, which I don't think we've had a chance to. So one of my recommendations is that we engage with the Colorado Rural Water Association to do that values at risk assessment, so that we can then inform that decision support system. And I'm also, I think we should go back and look at our source water protection plan. It hasn't been updated since 2010. You know, kind of like a sub document of that is wildfire community resiliency, which the town of Paonia has never done that assessment. So again, we've never really looked at fire as a hazard, unfortunately. Yeah, there's another, okay, I'll just read off all this recommendations right now. It's like review the watershed ordinance and see what our obligations are. I think we should continue to pursue roundtable discussions with the Forest Service. Give them a letter, letting them know what our concerns are. And I kind of want Nick and Leslie to sort of provide some context for the language that we chose to use for that letter. And basically it's just to like kind of cover ourselves by just expressing all the concerns that we have. The state, the Colorado Water Conservation Board has a new program. It's called the Wildfire Ready Watersheds Plan, and it looks at things like fluvial hazards, so sediment, debris, ash, all sorts of things that can impact source water. And this is a brand new program, as far as I'm aware of. Like, I think it came out in 2022. After, I'll give you one instance. The Glenwood Canyon, after the fire ripped through, the rain just washed up that hillside and totally took out the highway. So the state realizes that a lot of places aren't prepared for wildfire. So there's a lot of resources available right now. And I think one of the to-dos in that Wildfire Ready action plan is to engage with other stakeholders in the headwaters to just collaborate and share resources and just look at all the different all the risks, the post-fire hazards, come up with mitigation plans. For municipality, we would come up with like a response plan and a recovery plan in that. And I think it's all, in my mind, it ties into how ready we are for dealing with drought. We don't really have like a drought response plan. Mary and I were just sitting in a conversation with one of the consecutive water companies. We're like, well, what's the policy or when water's tight? They really want to know. And then I recommend that we follow up with Chris Stewart from Delta County. He's the emergency manager. So after 2019, they had a whole list of action items, including continuity of operations, disaster financing workshop, emergency operation planning, developing an alert system. How does the town notify everybody when something's going on? What our public information plan is, having an incident command system. So that would be y'all would know what to do in an emergency, like how to help. And there, I guess like they recommended there be a training. So when a new trustee came on board, they would get that training, how to respond. And then we just need to continue to train on how to handle the situation, so those are my recommendations. Yeah, can I get some input from you and Nick about like sort of the tone of the letter? Like ultimately, I don't want to call the Forest Service out. I want to call you guys in to collaborate. So, but the language is kind of like, hey, we're concerned, and that's just to cover our bases.
So you all know about the NEPA process, the different, I know you do. So when I was with the Inyo National Forest, I was heavily involved in the RARE 2 environmental impact report. So my knowledge is decades old, but so a categorical exemption is such that it means they have decided that just basically, and I'm way oversimplifying, it doesn't need to go through any environmental study. And I think one of the reasons that may have happened is, from what Jeremiah explained to me, they didn't have our watersheds when they did their original draft report. They didn't have our information to put into that report and analyze. What I understand, Jeremiah has since given it to them, but Nick and I talked with Jeremiah about our response, and I think at this point, we just need to say in a letter, we're concerned. If you burn in our watersheds, it could cause contamination. And so let's talk. And we just left it at that. I think we just need to get something down on paper that acknowledges that we have an issue and what the issue is. And, I have never found the Forest Service to be hard to work with. I used to work for them. So I think that's where we're starting and not doing anything other than trying to make sure that we protect our watersheds.
Our due diligence is how I see it. Yeah.
Nick, do you have anything to add to that?
I will echo what Jeremiah said about the tone of the letter. I think it was important to raise the issues and also try to get them to slow down. I think that was kind of the goal in it. And it sounds like there might have been a lack of communication, not the town's fault. And hopefully there's some resolution that can come, and this letter will spur that on.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have some Forest Service people here. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the discussion?
I don't want to take up a bunch of your time, but I did want to provide a couple of clarifications with regards to the letter.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Levi Burrows. I'm the district ranger of Bayonne. If I leave you with nothing else, it's that there will be no fire on the ground at least fall of 2024. So we've got lots of time to have discussions to make sure your concerns are met, to make sure the issues are covered. Whether that requires additional input or not certainly remains to be seen. But we're certainly willing to listen. We're willing to work with you. We know that those structures are out there. You have a permit in the best for them. We haven't always known exactly where they were, nor have you or your predecessors known exactly where they were. I appreciate that this is a heads up that we all need to understand where they are for a variety of reasons. The other thing I want to leave you with is our prescribed fire is limited. Our application of fire is limited to the sagebrush community, which under historical range of variation typically burned about every roughly 5 to 60 years. It's missed a lot of those. And if you try to walk through it, you can feel that immediately. But we do not plan on putting fire into the juniper. We have very little pinon scattered here and there. Juniper burns, in June pre-monsoons. And when it does, because it doesn't have an understory, it's crown fire and it looks like the wake fire. So our ability to even put fire in that ecosystem is probably next to nothing. We've been treating them mechanically for years, since before my time. We don't plan on putting fire in sagebrush communities for a variety of reasons. It's only the sagebrush and only the little sagebrush that sprouts. There are a few bigger oak trees out there that are more of a savanna type, and those do not sprout. We don't plan on putting fire in there. I'm not going to tell you we're not going to kill fire. We're not going to take out a sagebrush plant here or there, but I appreciate the work that Jeremiah has done, putting together the infiltration areas so that we can mechanically treat those outside of the riparian area. So if you imagine prescribed fire as a brush, and it's usually a broad brush, it used to be called controlled burning. We don't call it that anymore because we only have so much control. But if that's our paintbrush, our mechanical treatment out there beforehand is our painter's tape. So what we're doing is working with fire guys now to see how wide painter's tape we need to put around these areas concerned, the areas around the outside that we don't want to burn, the area that is the oak brush next to the Doug fir along the base of the slope. We really don't want to take all those out because what we're trying to do is reduce fire danger. As if fire started down lower, southwest winds going uphill, it's going to build up a head of steam and hit all those and take out stringers of those as it comes up. So, making this area fire ready is part of our objective. The other is winter range habitat.
All right. Thank you very much,
No, one
Levi.
second.
Much appreciated.
You and I have worked together on this before, do you remember? Many
Probably
years.
so. For those of you who don't know, we started burning in the 90s around by Sand Mountain above the Hawks Nest Ranch and burned units from there all the way out to the nose of Land's End Peak. We jumped over and have burned over above Beaver Reservoir, on Wooten Mesa, and also on the Bear Paw side. So help me remember.
Dave Weber, the board assigned me to come talk to you. You came for a previous prescribed burn. At that point, you'd no longer called it a controlled burn. And now I guess it's a prescriptive burn, so.
It's a prescribed burn.
Yeah, well, that's just what we have in our agenda. So historically, you did burn up one of our lines, a Lake Fork line, and that's why we are a little bit concerned about it. At the time you and I talked, you said that you'd be using mechanical for areas that are sensitive to the town. Are you still going to go there, work with Jeremiah and find?
Yeah, our plan all along is everything that we know is there, we're going to mechanically treat in flat areas, a 25-foot swath from center line along the pipelines. The stuff that he's giving us on the areas around the springs, we will not mechanically treat in riparian areas, but the areas within those infiltration galleries, we're going to mechanically treat those so that and burn from those, so that there might be a little fire on the fringes of them, but there won't be enough fuel to carry it across the area that we mechanically treat. So yes, everything we know that's there, that's on we need to get it mapped so we can get it to the fire guy, to the people that we're giving the money to contract the mechanical work so that we can make sure that mechanical work is done.
I guess the other concern is the collection zones for the springs. We've had a spring collapse once up by Todd Springs where the entire hillside came down because it had no support and took out the spring. Are you going to be burning in any of our collection areas?
That's what I was just referring to.
Not just the pipelines, but above the springs where we have collection.
Help me with my terminology.
The infiltration galleries, the riparian zones that he's referring to. He's saying, yeah, they're going to mechanically treat in those riparian zones, in those natural infiltration galleries. We have spring boxes in some of those galleries, and then some of it is just natural infiltration that is then feeding the aquifer that is then feeding those spring boxes. But what I'm hearing you say is, yes, you're going to mechanically treat inside the infiltration gallery areas and also mechanically treat on the fringes, maybe burn up to the fringes.
If it's a riparian area. My assumption from your polygons that you gave us is that those infiltration galleries expand beyond the riparian zones. So if there's something beyond the riparian area that's still mapped in your infiltration gallery, that's where the mechanical treatment will occur, not in the riparian area.
Yeah, I kind of want to push that.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that above the springs, since I know historically we've had collapse into the springs, if you destabilize the vegetation, I'm worried about collapse into the spring.
So I think a ripe example is the scenario that we were talking about on the map. Like, could potentially we have like that hillside slip and then fall into that infiltration gallery. Maybe in the long term, it would give us a better aquifer that could hold more water.
I wouldn't bet on that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
But what it brings up is like maybe this isn't a categorical exclusion, and we should do those analysis and see how we can use hillsides to, you get the fire treatment and then we get a bigger aquifer, it's just there's like these nuanced ideas that haven't been fully fleshed out yet is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
So let's keep this conversation for another time.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, we can move this out of the board meeting into another venue.
Thanks, Levi. It's good to see you again.
Okay. All right. So any comments from the public ones? Yes, Suzanne.
What's the definition of mechanical treatment? Is it just the machine?
Hydroac seems one.
It's no sprays or anything, it's just machine.
No, it's You've been out in Fruitland Mesa where they've done mechanical and just ripped out big stretches of sage so they can have sheep out there.
So it's like a lot of tire tracks and.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating.
You can talk to Levi about that.
I just wanted to know what the definition was, because.
All right, so can we get a motion from the board to send the letter to Forest Service?
You want that?
Well,
Yes.
did anybody read the letter?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we did. Read the letter. I thought it was good.
Okay.
It's in English. Everything's
That works.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, so can we get a motion to send the letter to Forest Service?
I move that we approve sending the letter, Jeremiah's letter to the Forest Service.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion from the board? Yes.
I think we should run it by him.
He read it.
He's already.
He edited it.
Okay. He edited it?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
So should I just have?
No, it needs to be formatted, and yes, it needs to be spiffy up. All right, that motion passes. All right. Next, we have approval of the MOU between the Paonia Police Department and the Bureau of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Yeah, so this is, this MOU really just allows us to use the tool that ATF offers to law enforcement agencies. We'll use to track the purchase and the history of weapons used in violent crimes. It's really just a resource we're wanting to kind of bring into the fold. And to be clear, this is not something we're using frequently, but it would be nice to have this tool available to us, given some of the situations that arise.
Okay, comments from the public?
Could you describe that tool? We can't.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so this is a tool where we'll use the ATF, where we could run a serial number on a firearm. We would send that to the ATF if that firearm was used in a violent crime, and they could give us some information about, has that firearm been used in other violent crimes or origination point.
That's, thank you for repeating.
Okay. All right. Questions from the board?
Yeah. I'm ready to go with the motion. This is a great idea. I mean, we need to be able to track something like that.
All right, go Dave.
So, yes, I approve the MOU between the county police department.
Motion.
Motion to approve. We'll put the, I don't want to page it. Make a motion to approve the MOU between the county police department and ATF.
Second.
All right, discussion?
David did.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that motion passes. All right. Next is the approval of funding for repairs to the town financial system.
So this contract for professional services that was behind the police department report is what we're looking at. I noticed, I didn't see this, but they reduced their fees.
Yeah,
Yes. So that was very nice because we've talked a lot about my concern about cost. So I'm asking for your approval.
Okay, comments from the public? Yes. Michelle.
I'm going to follow up with an email to the board just for tonight. I want to say thank you very much, Leslie, for the information that was included in the packet, for doing the work and bringing this to light, and the work you're doing to make some corrections. So appreciated.
Right. Okay, discussion from the board? Yes.
I just didn't know if Michelle, who was here before, is that who would come back?
Yeah, and she'll probably do most of it remotely, so we're not paying for travel costs.
And she said at one point, I read 6 to 8 hours, or is it more than that?
It'll be more than that to do all this work. It might have been 6 to 8 hours to do one of the things.
Okay.
But it'll be more than that. She thought about a week before they could get Cassell reordered. And they won't take out any of the entries. They'll just reorder where they are.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I had one more. I just noticed under miscellaneous, the contract will be governed by the laws of Broomfield. And is that because the company is in Broomfield, or is that, or should it be Delta? It's on page 113.
Nick, do you want to weigh in on that? Do you want this to be the county of Broomfield or the county of Delta?
Well, my suspicion is that they are located in Broomfield and that's what they would have preferred. It's somewhat problematic for the town because if there were a dispute, then town personnel would have to go down to Broomfield County to actually participate in a hearing on the issues. So it'd be most protective of the town and its resources to change that to Delta if they'd be so willing.
And usually that is something that comes up. It comes up in my contracts. So I don't think they're going to have a problem changing it to Delta.
Okay, so can we get a motion pending change of venue to the dispute?
Questions. Okay. If I could just ask, so has Nick reviewed this? Do we need Nick's look over on this?
I said it to Nick. I don't know that he's had time to see it.
Yeah, Leslie did send it to me. I did not have time to review it yet, but I had been reviewing it as we've been working through the agenda tonight. And that was the only issue that I saw that's worth requesting a change.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't see a place for the town to sign. It looks like there's a notary section on page 114. And again, this may just be a minor
Well, we
thing.
can
that
just
was-
add that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying is
Yeah.
it didn't seem
we can add
complete.
that.
It looked like it was a bit of a template that needed some upgrade. And if you'd like, I'll be happy to make a motion.
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Professional Management Solutions upon affirmative review by our attorney.
With the change to Delta.
Yeah, and with the change to Delta County.
Okay, second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, next on the agenda is ratification of funding approval for emergency sewer repairs.
So the board met in an emergency meeting on Friday to approve spending up to $350,000 for the sewer repair. The estimate came in at $338,000. You know, if by chance we run into some problems and the price goes up, we're going to come back to you and ask you to amend it. But we've got plenty of time because that will not happen in a couple of days. It's going to be a big operation to replace that. So we're asking for ratification in the regular meeting of the expenditures of up to $350,000. We do have the cash, but I am going to apply for a loan because I think we need to keep our cash.
Comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the ratification of funding for the emergency sewer repair.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Yes, Thomas?
I noticed that we have staging going on, but no holes open yet. Is that correct?
Right, the reason why we don't is we're waiting for the manholes. They
Okay.
have to, I never knew this is something, I'm learning new things, especially vocabulary from Nick. But they have to fabricate the manholes for us because they don't come in standard sizes. I never knew that. I thought you just called up and ordered 3 manholes and they came, but that's not the case.
Okay. At our emergency meeting, I raised the issue of going out to other firms. Was there any response from anyone?
He did go out to other firms and they either didn't respond or they were not able to perform the duties in time. That's always been is always going to be a problem with emergency work, is talking people. And that's how our last emergency, when we had that cave in the alley, people have stuff scheduled, especially people that do this kind of work. They're scheduled for months out. So
I understand heavy equipment can be difficult to move for sure. It just seems like the emergency factor is not perhaps as emergent as I believed it to be.
Well, we have a motion and a second to ratify the funding approval. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passed.
Can I just ask, is Root who's gonna be doing the work? I didn't hear. who
This
the
is what I
contractor was.
understand the plan is right now. Rup is gonna do the work, but he's going to incorporate using our own staff to keep the costs down. And also to train the public works staff on how to do this. So if we do get our own equipment, we'll be able to do it ourselves.
All right, next up is relationships with the North Fork Pool Park and Rec District and the North Fork Creative Coalition. Nick, I believe this one is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So my recollection is that the board wanted to consider its contractual relationships with the North Fork Pool Park and Recreation District and the Creative Coalition. On review, I looked at the items that the town had in its records, and it looks like the town has 2 IGAs with the Rec District and just some individual one-off agreements with the Creative Coalition. One has to do with the entryway sign. I'm not very familiar with that, but it's not really an overarching agreement. So I think that's the only point I need to make on that. So I did come up with a recommendation, and I won't go through this too much with you because I did try to include a lot of detail in the staff memo, but I do think that it's worth attempting to renegotiate some of the terms of the IGAs with the Recreation District. There are 2, as I mentioned, one concerning the skate park and one concerning the Apple Valley Park tennis courts, which I understand might also be used for pickleball. So, and then I think it would be worth entering into an MOU or an agreement with the Creative Coalition. The reason I've phrased it as an MOU or an agreement rather than an IGA is because the Creative Coalition is technically a 501c3 nonprofit. So the skate park IGA, just starting with that, I think it's there are some things in that agreement that aren't exactly advantageous to the town. And I think, negotiating a new agreement could be a good thing for both parties too. It could allocate duties, responsibilities, and rights more efficiently and more clearly, and better guide the parties' relationship. So the protections that the town has is that the district is going to maintain, repair, and replace the structures, the ramps and fixtures in a good and safe condition. They have to close the skate park if any hazardous conditions arise. And it gives the town a right to terminate basically for breach of those obligations. The district doesn't have a right to renew the lease, which is different than with regard to the IGA concerning the Apple Valley tennis courts. So the problems that I've identified with the skate park IGA is that it does require the district to carry general liability insurance. And I think those minimum limits of 1 million and 2 million are fine. But it doesn't require them to add the town as an additional insured. This is the town's property, even though it's being leased to the district. So there is still a concern that the town could be sued for injuries that occur on the skate park. And there's no indemnification. So even if the town were to argue that because the district has insurance and presumably should cover those damages that the town might incur from those injuries, there's nothing that would obligate the district to indemnify the town, even though they're the ones managing that area. So the reason I say attempt to renegotiate is because once you sign an agreement, there's no guarantee that a contracting party is going to renegotiate terms. And this, I believe, let's see, it says a 5-year term. So that was their parties. Let me find where that. So anyway, the 5-year term will end. So that's good. the town will have the opportunity to renegotiate the IGA then. And the town could exert some leverage here and say, well, your IGA is ending soon. So if you want to extend it, let's renegotiate it now and make sure that this is a fair agreement. So moving on really quickly to the Apple Valley Tennis Courts IGA, there's a little bit more of a concern with this one, and that's because it allows the district to renew the IGA unilaterally at the end of the lease period on the same terms and conditions for another 25 years. And this agreement, let's see, it was executed in 2012, and it's a 25-year term. So there's still quite a long ways to go on that. The issue primarily with this, and as I mentioned, they can renew the lease for another 25-year period and unilaterally really again renew it for another 25-year period after that in perpetuity. The way it's written, at least, they don't have any insurance requirements in that agreement. We think they're probably carrying that insurance because they're carrying it for the skate park, and it would make sense to just extend that policy to cover both. But that insurance requirement should really be in both agreements. They have a weak indemnification obligation in that agreement. It doesn't, arguably, it doesn't extend to premises liability. It only covers negligence, which are two different theories of liability. And additionally, neither IGA addresses competition between the town and the district in grant applications, which has been the issue that's come up most recently. So I think if the board is so willing to direct me to do so, I think it would be wise to try and renegotiate those IGAs. And because the district and the town want to have presumably a cooperative relationship and see the benefits in having that relationship, I think that these kinds of terms could be negotiated even in the agreement regarding the tennis courts that does extend well into the future. So does anyone have any questions or discussion on that before I move on to the Creative Coalition? I see Dave.
Let's take comments from the public first. Seeing none, questions from the board? Oh, Dave.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can negotiate a broad agreement with them covering all areas that we're working with them, instead of having two separate agreements based on parks. Have an agreement that covers our relationship and it includes both those areas. Thanks.
Mayor, I can address that, and I think Dave raises a good point. It's kind of uncommon when there's a rec district that is managing multiple properties within town boundaries, within any municipal boundaries, not to have an overarching IGA. And the benefit of that would be if the town wanted to agree with the district's going to manage other properties in the town as the town grows or establishes other recreation areas. It would be beneficial to have that type of agreement in place to set forth a process for doing that. So that's certainly something.
I just want to add that their board meeting is on the 24th of April. And so we could informally approach them about the the request to look at that as an overarching agreement.
Dave Weber?
So Nick, they're talking still about expanding the skate park. So whatever IGA happens there, we need to anticipate future changes to that property.
Okay. Yep. I appreciate that. And, that's another, negotiation point too. The town can say, if you're looking to expand, then we need to insert some additional terms in the agreement.
Okay. And Nick, something else I was thinking about is reading through this. It's not clear how the park district is going to be told that there's a hazard and they need to shut down the skate park. It just references a hazard. It seems like it'd be good to create a clear process for the town or a citizen. I'm not sure, but we would be the ones here in Paonia probably seeing a danger. So if there's some way to clarify that, probably same thing with the tennis courts. And the other thing is, I noticed on page 125, we're supposed to pay them $2,000 a year by March 1st. I don't believe that has happened. I look back through disbursements, I'm not seeing it, and I have no idea if it's been paid over the years.
Okay, yeah, that's an important issue too. I'm surprised that no one's been hounding you for that money.
Okay, anything else? All right, can we get a motion to authorize our attorney to renegotiate these agreements?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize our attorney to begin negotiations with the Pool Park and Recs District.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We still have to deal with the Creative Coalition.
Exactly.
Okay, you're splitting this item.
Right, yes. Okay, so we have that motion passed. So now let's go on Creative Coalition.
All right, let me pull up my packet here again. Yes, so with the Creative Coalition, there really is no overarching agreement. And but there is a resolution that the town drafted in support of the Creative Coalition's designation as a creative district. And I guess that's kind of inaccurate to say it's not the coalition that would be certified as the creative district, or that is certified. It's really the area of land. So the board did pass that in support, and by the resolution, the board resolved to do certain things. One is appointing a representative of the Creative Coalition Board of Directors to represent the best interests of the citizens of Paonia on the board. Has that happened? And is somebody on that board?
No, it's not correct. It may have happened back in the beginning when that was first put together, but it has fallen apart since then.
Okay. Well, that's something we might want to address in a potential MOU or agreement with Creative Coalition, because I have heard the board express some concerns about Paonia's representation when it comes to the initiatives of the Creative Coalition, and board membership, active participation could, aside from, contractual agreement, that might be the best way to make sure that Paonia's interests are served. So that could be addressed in the agreement, again, reminding the coalition that that was something, one of the conditions really on which the board agreed to support their designation as a creative district. There's also a provision that says direct town staff to actively support and cooperate with the governing board of the Creative Coalition to develop and maintain the creative district. I think that is a very broad authorization and direction provided to the staff to work on things that aren't necessarily related to town business. So I think an agreement might help to refine that commitment and to ensure that town staff's responsibilities that they're paid for at the town aren't unduly interfered with. So that's another reason you might consider an agreement with them. And on the Creative Coalition side, I think they'd love to have an agreement with the town to more, to basically better understand what the town's commitments are going to be year to year. And if not a monetary commitment that's established by agreement, which I'm not necessarily recommending, at least a process at the beginning of the year where they have some sort of negotiation, make some sort of ask to the board. So I know that happened this year, and it was somewhat informal the way it happened. And these staff memos and also the memos that we're having outside organizations use have certainly helped in that process, but an agreement might further assist in it. And then I think that was really it. I think, yeah, those were kind of my recommendations. If they're going to make periodic requests of the board, there should probably be a defined process for making, granting, and denying those kinds of requests. And that could also go into the MOU or agreement. So I'm just seeking board direction to see if you'd like me to renegotiate that. And of course, in both of these agreements, I think the town is concerned with competition over grants and grant funding, and there should at least be some sort of process where there's each organization notifies the other when there's planned application for grant funding, and that way there's no stepping on toes, and it can even foster cooperation.
Right. Comments from the public? All right, seeing questions from the board. Yes. please.
I just wondered if Article 4 says authorizes the appropriate officials to draft and send a letter of support. It seems like it'd be good to clarify who this would be, and I'm assuming would be trustees, perhaps. And then Article 5 directs town staff to assist in collection of pertinent data. I think that needs to be cleaned up too, so it's not so open-ended. I don't think an agreement, an MOU can direct staff to do anything. To clarify.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Trustee Smith. My thought was, because this resolution has already been passed, the board, of course, could take further action by resolution to kind of take some of these things back, or further refine these things, or since there's already direction that the board has given through this resolution, the MOU could further refine that. So for example, the staff, they've been directed to assist in that collection of pertinent data. What exactly does that mean? How much time are they going to spend? You've directed them to do so, but then if you enter into an MOU with the Creative Coalition, they're agreeing to that level of staff that the board, staff time that the board is ultimately willing to grant.
Yeah, I'm wondering, so do we even need a resolution? Can we abolish this resolution, supersede it with the MOU?
I think in essence, I think we're going to want to see if the MOU is going to be within the confines of what's already been set forth in this resolution, then it might not make sense to rescind the resolution, because you are stating your support of this organization. And if you're going to enter into an MOU with them, you're further suggesting that you want to cooperate with this coalition. So I don't know if it's going to be necessary. I think we'll get into that when I'm actually drafting, if the board directs me to draft this MOU or agreement. If we want to change anything in this resolution, then certainly that part of the resolution would need to be rescinded.
Dave?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of inconsistencies in this packet about who signs what. In this case, we have a town administrator signing an agreement on behalf of the town. I think in an earlier part of the packet, and I didn't catch this when we were on the agenda item, but I think there was a signature block for our interim town administrator to sign agreements. And I'm not comfortable unless the mayor is signing agreements for the town. Then I'm feeling confident that the board is also taking up that issue. So I just want to make sure we get real consistent on who signs agreements on behalf of the town of Paonia. And if I don't know, I may not know all the details of this. Maybe it is appropriate for staff in some cases, but I'd like to know more and be more consistent about it. Thank you.
The other thing I would like to bring up is that this is the designation of the creative district and not necessarily the coalition. The Creative Coalition is one thing. The creation of the creative district is an entirely different thing that is a state entity and not a different thing. So I think we need to keep this resolution as long as we have a creative district. That having an MOU with the Creative Coalition, which is running the creative district, is an entirely different thing. And so it's more appropriate. But I think we need to keep the resolution as is. And if we need to amend it, then we need to amend it.
Yeah, the problem, it is way open-ended though, in terms of obligation from the town. So I'd like to tighten that up.
Yeah, and we can tighten it up, that's for sure. So do you want to go ahead, Nick?
Oh, thanks, Mary. I will just say that this was really my introduction to creative districts, and I'm not even sure if the designation as a creative district amounts to the creation of a legal entity. if it were a metropolitan district under Title 32 of the state statutes, in that case, you're establishing a separate legal entity with which you can contract. They have the power to contract, almost just like a municipality does. And in this instance, I've not seen anything that shows me that a creative district is actually a separate legal entity with the power to contract. So it would be in agreement with the Creative Coalition, their 501c3.
All right, so we want to make a motion. Sorry, we already passed. Do we want to make a motion to direct the town attorney to work on this?
Oh, okay, I'll make a motion to direct our attorney to draft an MOU with the Creative Coalition and propose some revisions to resolution number 2013-04.
Okay, second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, moving on to the growth management plan with Delta County. So the Planning Commission has looked at this twice. We had the county planners come in and present to us. Even though this has automatically renewed the old one, they would like to do a new one. This has been going on for, gosh, at least 3 years.
Yeah, I was on that.
So the Planning Commission did make a couple of suggestions. One of them was that the big one with the Planning Commission was to ban all CAFOs or confined animal feeding operations in our growth management area, and to make notification requirements clearer in the recommendations, and that from the previous sessions when the planners were there, to include all properties in the growth management area that are served with town water. And the county planners agreed with that, said if we're going to give water, then they need to be in our growth management.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendations to the IGA.
I'll second that.
Community input, yes. Yeah. All right.
So I just had a question about the draft that's in the packet. Was that produced by the county, by the town?
By the county.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion from the board? Yes.
Pardon?
Did you have your hand up, Suzanne? Okay.
Suzanne Watson. Can you repeat what you said about if they have water, they're in the growth management?
Yeah, if we're providing them, anyone with water in the town area, if they get water from the town system, they're in our growth management area.
So does that mean out on Rover Road?
Yes.
At the very,
Yes.
wow, I mean, okay. Like Jared Lowe's place out
Yes.
there? That's
Yes.
really far away from
Yes.
town.
Yes.
Okay, and I know in the past when Jane Berry was here, there was someone up by the $1 million tank that was on the water system. And our code said that you had to get building permits if you're on our water system. And they were exempted from that because they were so far away, we're never gonna expand up there. So it'd be kind of important to be clear about these rules and have them be realistic, because if they're not realistic, we probably shouldn't have them.
Well, in the growth management area, it's not required that.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the growth management plan as amended by the Planning Commission.
I think it was to accept the Planning Commission
Right.
recommendations, but I have other comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I didn't want you to shut the door on that.
Go for it.
But do you
Yeah.
want to go ahead and do that motion first?
No, let's go
Okay.
ahead and see what you want.
I had let's see, on page 130.
Yeah.
A question, hang on, let me grab my note. So on 2 and 4, there is the folks that are in an enclave that are still in the county and have not been annexed.
Are you under annexation?
Yeah, on de-annexation and numbers 2 and number 4. I was just curious, what if an enclave owner doesn't want to be annexed?
no choice, it's a state.
So they are, and why haven't we annexed them already?
We
If it's
have, we annexed the
required.
Forest Service office. That was one that was at Enclave. So we have done that historically.
And we have enclaves that we really should be annexing, right?
Okay, that's
Do
what,
we have any left,
Yeah.
Mary?
Yes, we do. We have
Still?
like 2 or 3 that we should annex.
Yeah,
Yep.
we should.
well, thank you, because I looked at the zoning map and there were a couple
Right.
enclaves, so I
And we
wondered,
just haven't moved forward with. it.
Okay.
That's-
so they don't have a choice. They are gonna have to be
Right. We can't force it.
annexed, okay, and then, same page. There's a reference to, at the bottom of the page in subsection F1 to section 8 below, and there is no section 8 below. So I feel like there's something
Ah,
amiss in this draft, and that's actually in 2 different places where they reference section 8, and there is no
Okay.
section 8.
All right.
And I have one more comment. Scroll to it. Oh, never mind, my comment was about the CAFOs within a half mile, but if we accept the planning commission, that's a moot point. So those were the only questions I had.
All right. Anything else on the board? Okay.
I just want to say thanks to the planning commission for putting this together. The KFO section of the land use code, 2021 land use code, I guess, was something that I brought up several times and had a lot of very bad feelings about. So moving forward, I think is a fantastic move.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept the IGA with the planning commission recommendations. All in favor?
And section 8.
And the section 8. Yeah. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. that
Section
motion-
8, where insane people go.
Yes, that is section 8. Yes. Okay. So we have next is recommendation from the planning commission on the zoning and building municipal code changes.
Mayor, I moved to recess for 5 minutes.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 5 minutes, 8:21.
You can relax now, Dave.
Okay, so Dave, we're probably gonna go past 9 o'clock. What is your situation? Come 9 o'clock?
I run out of the internet at 9 o'clock because I'm kicked out of the only shop that has internet in Rifle at 9 o'clock at night.
Can you join us via your phone? Because we will lose quorum and we're probably gonna be in executive session. And
What's the executive session on?
it's on removal of town officers.
Legal advice.
It's just legal advice.
It's legal. Oh, yeah, but we'd still need a quorum to go into it, as long as you can be there long enough for us to go into quorum.
I start at 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow and I really don't want to stay past 9.
Well, as long
Because
as.
I have to drive a half
All
hour
right.
to where I'm
Can't get
staying.
out.
I'm in that conference for the next 2 days.
Right, so what I'm saying is, if there's any way we can get into that, and you can vote to go into executive session, it's okay. Well, you can't make any motion not coming out of it.
You better ask Nick about that.
Why didn't you postpone the survey?
It's just sufficient.
I think that we can postpone stuff.
I mean, that's gonna take a long.
And we still have like 30 some minutes, so.
Going back and forth. So really, the
Yeah.
reason it isn't citywide, it is water.
You can see it for the next meeting.
Yeah, actually, the last agenda items, the email thing, I don't know, we've got some pressing.
That might not be present.
Good idea. Susan.
You can ask Leslie about yes.
But I don't.
But if you ever need to tap me for anything, information and stuff.
Yeah, because you didn't like put up executive session when the rest of the agenda was that.
Still bounced
from
So really, all we're talking about is just the, we have to cover the affordable housing and the issues with the state. And just look at, I mean, the main thing I'm after is just being able to talk about that and being able to talk about where we're going with planning. And as long as we get the board decision on who should be handling the you know, if Mary and I should continue as planning
Oh,
people.
right.
Yeah. And do
Well,
affordable
and
housing.
actually, Dave, we don't have to do that at this meeting. We can do that at the next meeting. That's not a huge agenda item. We can do that at the next meeting.
Well, why don't you just go into executive session when we come back from the break then?
That's not a bad idea either.
Our treasurers were, when Ross King was there, they just started paying them.
I leave that to the attorneys.
Okay, but I just want to bring that.
Well, when the board gets back here in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do, see what they want to do.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, Paige is back. Oh, Meg. And Sam. Yeah.
Oh, hey, just a question. Can we get someone on staff to purchase the owl? John has been really,
I tried.
you know.
Okay, Dave, here's what the owl is ordered. It's sitting in
Good.
Sam's office. We were gonna try and work on this yesterday and today, and there just wasn't time to do it. So
Gotcha. But
the rest of
man,
this
it's hard.
week-
I gotta tell you, it's
Yeah.
hard on this end.
Yeah, the rest of this week, I'm gonna try and carve out some time, and if you have some time to try and come in and try and install this owl system. Yeah,
I can try and find some.
okay, yeah. We're gonna try and see.
Please. I'll beg if you want me to.
Responsive time.
Let's
go back and forth. All right, so. Let's say get back. He has 12 seconds. We're gonna go back. All right. Back in session. So here's our dilemma. We're recording, okay. So here's our dilemma is that Dave actually, he loses his internet connection and has to go away at night. And we lose our quorum. So I think we really need to go into executive session or something to resolve that issue before Dave leaves.
Oh, that's
So
a
we can't
little
do
left.
that. Pardon?
Could we actually get through these last couple like rocket fast?
I think the
Was there
board
something we
priority
have?
survey results, I think that's gonna take a bit of time. The planning commission thing, we have put that off for 8
Yeah,
months.
so
I
let's move
think,
the executive session forward. That'd be right.
okay, can we get a motion to do that?
I move that we move the executive session forward in the agenda to accommodate Dave's forum.
Second.
All right.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, so let's,
Rock and roll.
okay, read your thing.
Therefore, move that we move to executive session pursuant to section 24064024D CRS for purposes of conferencing with the town attorney for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to the removal of officers pursuant to section 31-4-307 CRS.
Do you have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed.
Is that specific enough? Do people understand what we're going into? Because I couldn't hear the actual rationale.
It's for pursuant to the removal of officers.
Removal of offices?
Legal advice. Legal
Legal
advice.
advice regarding the removal of officers.
It's right on your
Oh,
agenda.
removal of officers. So it's a personnel?
Yeah,
Colorado section 31, Colorado Revised Statutes 31-4-307.
yeah.
Just everybody knows that.
Okay, thank you.
So Sam will put you in a room. I have to do my thing and you do your thing. All right. The time is now 9:16 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were trustee Weber, trustee Smith, trustee Markle, trustee Knudsen, town administrator Plusmeyer, attorney Cotton Bides, and Mayor Backer. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that improper action occurred during the executive session, violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record.
Trustee Knudsen had to leave during the session, but he wanted to raise an objection, stating that we started to veer away from, started our discussion appropriate to the topic, started to veer away from it and toward an individual, and we corrected our discussion.
Okay, since we have lost our quorum, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I will see you on the mountain.
She should.